Justin snuck in too.
Yes.
I'm very sneaky, sir.
Good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year to all. This is a meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals for the town of Eastham. Today is January 8th, 2026, and this is a partially remote participation meeting. Members of the board are here, gathered in the Earl Mountain Room at Town Hall. Applicants and the public may participate in person here or online through the Zoom app or by phoning in. This meeting will be live broadcast on our local access channel 8 and streaming on the town website. Under the executive order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law signed by our former Governor Charlie Baker in March of 2020 and extended by Governor Maura Healey in March of 2025 to June of 2027, all members in any meeting of any public body may participate remotely. I'm Joanne Verlinden, Chair of the Zoning Board, and with the help of my colleagues surrounding me, I will be leading the meeting tonight. Before we begin, let me explain a few of the procedures we will follow. I will introduce the case to be heard, name the board members who will be seated on the case, and this will be followed by a presentation by our applicants or the applicant's representative of the nature of the case and the reasons for requesting a special permit for site review. Following that, board members might ask questions regarding various aspects of the case. And at any point in this process, the applicant or the applicant's representative may request a continuance to make appropriate revisions to the application. If a hearing is to be continued to a later meeting, a motion is required and shall contain a date certain for the hearing to be resumed. Any revised or supplemental information for the board shall be submitted no later than the Thursday prior to the next scheduled meeting, which would be February 5th. When board members have finished with their questions, we'll open the meeting to abutters, but I don't really see any here, or other interested members of the public. When it appears there are no more questions from the public or abutters, we'll close the meeting to the public, and then the board might do some discussing of the application, and when ready, proceed to a reading of the findings of fact, followed by a motion to approve or amend the findings. A vote will be taken on that. Then there'll be a reading of the conditions following the same procedure. The last order of business will be for the board to approve or deny the applicant's request. At any point before a final vote is taken, the applicant or the applicant's representative may ask that the application be withdrawn without prejudice. This means that the case is not dismissed forever and that the applicant can try again at a later time. So with that, let me introduce the case, which is number ZB8 2025-05, 55 Seagull Lane. This case was postponed from a meeting originally scheduled for December 4th of last year. This is at map 5, parcel 219. The owners, John and Jennifer Roche, and applicants seek a site plan approval, special permit pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 48, Sections 8, and Eastham Zoning Bylaw, Section 4.3. For an alteration of a non-conforming single-family structure, and Section 7.2.4 setback requirements to build a detached 1.5-story garage setback according to the drawings, the site plan drawings. The setback would be 14.6 feet from the property line, where 25 feet is required. Seated on this case will be Martin Ridge, Doug Bird, Bob Sheldon, Justin Kennington, and myself. And I think we have the applicant or applicant's representative talking to us on Zoom. Is that right?
So I'm here, I'm Jennifer Roach, and my husband is also here, John.
Okay,
So I guess I can, I'm not sure if Bob Urell is here from Cape Associates or not. I wasn't sure if he was going to be able to join this evening. But I'm prepared to sort of let you know why we're wanting to do this. So we are hoping to build a single car garage on our lot. This would be primarily to sort of house our vehicle and to provide storage. The shape of our lot is challenging because of it's shaped like a parallelogram, which I'm sure you have all seen. And it makes it difficult to actually put the structure anywhere else that would kind of make sense on this lot. Right now, the way that we have it drawn is that this garage will be in the same existing place as the current driveway, which will obviously create ease, but also be financially easier to build. I think an advantage is that it doesn't disrupt any of the natural vegetation between the lot. There's sort of a natural tree border there from our nearest abutters, and this garage would not interrupt that in any way. It's also located very close to where the current electric charging is located, and so that would be continued to be used. I think, you know, we have sort of looked at this a few different ways and trying to get it sort of off the sight line as much as possible. And this current sort of plan seems to be the best option. Our neighbors who we have discussed this with, the nearest abutters that I think that this would affect, I think you've have their letter that they are in support of it and don't see that this would be problematic to them. I think that the structure fits in nicely with the neighborhood and the surround. There are a lot of houses there that have in our neighborhood that have garages. And the design of it, as you can see, kind of looks very Cape Cod style and fits in with the natural landscape, I believe. In addition to the garage, we're hoping to do a very minor extension of our dining area. It's a 8-foot extension, and that primarily is to allow us to have a table where we can sit and eat as a family. So it's a pretty small kitchen living room footprint, and this extension would allow a table that would be able to fit 6 adults, which is sort of our family structure. So that's the nature of why we wanted to do this, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
okay, thank you for that. Your original proposal also included attached to the garage a storage shed. And that would have made your setback from the neighbors, the abutting neighbors, 8.6 feet, I think, something like that. You've moved the shed, right? You've removed it
Yes,
from the outside of the garage, and it's now at the further end of the house, the further end of your dining kitchen area. Am
yeah,
I right?
it's facing the walkway there. It's actually it's an attached sort of area to provide more storage, but it's on the opposite side now.
On the opposite side of the garage. I
Yeah.
see. Okay. How does that affect your proposed pergola?
It appears, at least from the drawings, that it should be able to still attach the 2 structures. There'll be a kind of a narrow walkway there, but that it will sort of circumvent that storage area and connect to kind of the back. Bob, who is probably more skilled in answering these questions, unfortunately, I guess, is not here, but it still would be sort of attached to the main house by that pergola. And the storage area is one, I think architecturally it looks nice, but it also will provide, you know, storage, especially when a vehicle is in the single car garage. So that was the reason for wanting that additional space.
I see. Okay. Anybody else here with questions, comments? Justin?
A technical question for us. I completely understand why we're talking about the setbacks and the nonconformity there. Is this addition of the dining room at all under our purview here? Because this is an existing non-conforming structure, or are we only here to talk about the setback? Okay, okay, so there happens to be a new dining room, but we're not here to talk about that.
Right.
Am I understanding that correctly?
It's
Only in the way it ties all together.
And how it affects. Didn't do the dining room. Did you move everything? You could move everything.
Okay, I see what you mean. Okay, fair, fair. Yeah, I just wanted clarity.
Okay. Alex?
Yeah, I've just one question in the visual massing or the reduction thereof with the pergola. I don't know necessarily how relevant that is to the approval, but as the structure is viewed from the street based on the perspective, it's always going to appear as one structure to me, just because coming from the other direction, that street's blocked off. So if that were at all relevant, I'm just wondering, as you visualize it, do you see it as two buildings where perhaps it isn't looking as large? Just given that that's here in here under, number 2 massing. Does that question make sense?
Yeah, are you asking me that question? Or are you asking the board that question?
It's a good question.
Go-
So,
Go for the question again.
all right, so the first one would be to the board. If the visual massing is important, that pergola is providing that differentiation. I don't know if you observed this when you were there, but you're not going to see that differentiation.
Well,
from the
pergola, I
typical-
think is gonna be hidden behind the garage and the house.
Correct. So if
Yes.
that were important, it won't be doing what it's
So
claiming.
my question, which is related, does this mean it's an attached garage or is it still a detached garage? And I've seen it go both ways, to be fair. What do you think, Paul? Is this,
Well, the pergola is what is attaching the detached, the pergola is what is connecting the garage to the existing dwelling, and that is what is allowing this to fall under a special permit as opposed to a variance.
So we would consider it as all one structure.
Yeah, well, the
garage, because of the pergola, is attached to the house.
Right, without the pergola, it would be a detached
Right.
structure, which would need to meet the setbacks because there'd be no pre-existing non-conforming, so they would need a variance. So the pergola is a structural element that they're using to tie into the
Right.
existing house. Because the existing house is pre-existing non-conforming because of the corner of the back deck.
Mhm.
So that's why they're putting the pergola
Okay.
as a connector.
What does that mean if I just put like a 2x4 between the two buildings, then it's an extension of the existing structure and it falls under our jurisdiction? I mean, pergola seems pretty light to make it an addition to an existing structure.
it's not even a
That's-
covered walkway.
that's-
Pergola got,
That's
like,
something,
Holes in it.
something for the board
Well, yeah.
to consider.
Well, this is actually an interesting point. How tall is the garage?
I believe it's 20 feet, is that correct?
Yes.
So if it was
Yeah.
detached, you'd need to meet code, 20 feet from instead we're 14, but if it's attached, we need to be 25. Is that right?
No, doesn't the
Well,
25
if it-
minimum
if it's
also apply?
attached- If it's attached, well, that's,
Well, but that's my point. Without the pergola,
right,
the code would say you had to be 20 feet away.
correct.
So we're only like 5 feet non-conforming. With the pergola, we're now 10 feet non-conforming.
You're saying
Except-
if the garage, if you remove the pergola and just attach the garage directly to the house, you're saying? Because
No, I'm
I think what you're saying is
remove
if
the
it were-
pergola, it becomes a detached garage, in which case it only needs to be 20 feet from the sidelines.
Is that?
Yeah.
Setback's only 20 feet for.
No,
detached-
it's
Is that accurate? I thought it was minimum of building height or 25 feet.
No, it's
no,
for a
it's
For a
detached,
detached,
Okay.
12 feet or the height of the structure.
12 feet. Okay, I knew there was a different fixed number there. I see what you're saying.
How tall is the structure?
But
20
I think to
20
Paul's point, that would no longer be a special permit issue. That would then be a variance issue because that's a new structure going in without any nonconformity. Even
do-
even if it would be
Sorry, let
less
me-
of a
hold on, I
variance.
just want to so just to kind of reset. If the proposal
Spun off
was
real
to
fast.
build a detached garage
Right.
at 20 feet, In order to do it clean, you would have to be, the garage would have to be 20 feet off the property line.
Right. But if it were 14 feet off, then they would need a variance rather than
Need
a special
variance.
permit.
So
Right.
their desire is to place this garage at 14 feet. In
Right.
order to tie that into.
Which is a-
qualify for a special permit, they're using the pergola as a structural piece to link the two
Yeah.
projects so that, the two buildings, so it's all one.
Yeah, I follow you.
But if it was a detached garage, they'd need a variance and they would be able to use the shape of the lot as their,
Rationale.
as the rationale.
One, that's
As the
one
hardship.
factor. That's one of three that it has to be the lot, the shape of the lot, the soil conditions,
Yeah.
the topography.
So is it a two-car garage?
No,
No.
it's a one.
1.5.
1.5-car garage?
1.5 car garage, is that right?
One.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
And so I guess,
Well, it's actually a one car garage, but it's, I guess, 1.5, in the height, I think. That's where the 1.5 is, but it's a one car garage.
okay.
so the pergola was there initially for visual massing to make it look like two structures and thus less imposing. And now with the shed on the other side, you can barely see the pergola. So it's just, I guess, what's the point of the pergola to your question?
In my opinion, if you didn't care about sideline setbacks in any way, would you have the pergola, yes or no? That's it.
No, it's
Yeah.
Where
What
are we
are your
going-
thoughts?
Where are we going with this?
I don't know.
Okay, thanks.
Feels like
I
aesthetics
mean,
drive
we,
that
we
decision with this.
originally didn't want the pergola. Like, we originally just wanted to have it as a detached, but that
Yeah.
wasn't, we felt like the likelihood of the variance was gonna be harder than with a special permit when we found out with the non-conforming. So the pergola was there to kind of attach the structures. That's our guidance with our builder, and with some discussion, I think, with members of the planning board had talked about adding the pergola.
Okay, and
Like,
Doug, you had a question?
Couple, no, that was one of my questions was the size, but did you, when you were putting the plans together, did you consider moving the 6-foot storage?
Doug,
area?
is your microphone on?
No.
No, sorry.
Yeah, I can't hear.
Oh, sorry. No, sorry about that.
That's
I've been absent for a while. Did you consider moving the 6-foot storage area that you have on the side of the garage to the back of the garage so that you could move the whole structure over 6 feet?
Move it over towards closer to the line or towards the
Away from the
house?
line.
Oh, away from the line.
There's currently a 6-foot wide storage
Yeah.
area on the side of the garage.
Yeah.
Just wondering if you considered not doing that, then moving the garage over the 6 feet.
Well, we didn't really want to attach the two structures. We wanted to have sort of a walkway there between where we enter, which is mostly in the back. And so we didn't, if we moved it over, there'd be really no natural way to sort of have kind of a walkway that you would walk through. So that we didn't want to have the structure completely abut the dining room area. We felt like, or at least, and also the builder felt like that was gonna be a much more complex building, job.
I asked the question because if your garage is detached, and Mr. Sheldon here has educated me on setback requirements now, so if it's detached, you have a 20-foot setback. And if you could move the garage over 6 feet, you wouldn't have the need for a variance. You would be 20 feet off the property line.
Yeah, but it'd be impossible to walk between the house and the garage, I think.
With the addition, that's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were hoping to preserve that, just the way that the kind of the flow is in from the driveway to that garage into the house, so to not attach them both through there, because then there would be a different way that you would have to enter into the house itself as well.
Martin, you had a question?
Yeah, I could say that when I reviewed the application from October 7th, I thought 8'6" was too close to the sideline to approve, even with the neighbor's approval. So I'm happy to see that you rearranged the design of the garage to increase that to 14'6". I did look around the neighborhood and it does seem like a lot of the houses here do have similar type of single car garages. I do understand shifting things around. I think what we have here is a pretty good compromise, especially since we have a very strong letter of, from approval from the next door neighbor.
Not
So-
to mention, no interference with that boundary, with that neighbor.
Right. So I'm happy with the way it is now. I wasn't happy with it a month ago, but I think we've made some changes here that make it better for everybody. So that was no question, I guess, just my comments.
Okay. Anyone else, comments or questions?
Just a response to Martin. I actually, so I was where you were with the prior plan. And when this was a 20-foot setback requirement, I still didn't like the 14.6. But now that Bob has explained to me that if you take the pergola out, it's a 20-foot setback, then the encroachment is really only about 5 feet. So I think,
Yeah.
given that.
Yeah, right.
Okay. We're okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I'm neutral on the pergola. I mean, the pergola is nice.
Yeah.
I don't think it adds much other than the
Well, the
technicality
convenience,
thing.
but the
Yeah.
convenience
Yeah, let's-
factor
yeah,
of
let's
being
not
able to
abandon the
get,
technicality, because that, on a future case, that might be very
Oh,
important.
yeah.
yeah, but
It'd be important, but
But
this one,
at
I'm neutral
at
on.
least they can get
Yeah.
into the house without having to
Yeah, I agree.
order everything. All right, if we have no more questions and we have no people in the audience, let's go to the findings of fact. Alex, would you read them for us, please? The proposed findings of fact.
Probably the first packet.
On page 2 of your,
No.
The zoning board of appeals finds that, number one, the property is located at 55 Seagull Lane, map 05, parcel 219, and is located in District A residential. Number two, the applicant has applied for special permit pursuant to MGL C 40A Section
section,
8 and Eastham zoning bylaw, Section 4.3, alteration of a non-conforming single-family structure in Section 7.2.4 setback requirements to build a detached 1.5-story garage setback 8.6 feet. 14.
That's the change.
Yeah.
no, 14.6, Alex.
Am I looking at the old one?
No.
Okay, now
The new one didn't get
14.6
the update
feet
everywhere.
from the interior property line where 20 feet is required.
Actually, it's 25.
25. The existing building, number three, the existing building setback on the interior lot line is pre-existing non-conforming at 22 feet, where a minimum of 25 is required. The proposed addition will increase the nonconformity by 7.4 feet, resulting in a final setback of 14.6 feet from the property line. Number four, the proposal does not provide adequate protection.
Does,
Does.
Alex.
Sorry, thank you.
Thank you.
Provide adequate protection from degradation and alteration of the natural environment. The site is not located within any resource areas. No negative impacts were identified. The project does not include any landscaping and includes limited site work. The lot is mostly flat with established plantings. The plan preserves the existing trees on the site as well as the existing vegetated screening along the southerly property line. Number five, the proposed project is compatible with the prevailing character of other uses and buildings on the site and in the neighborhood in terms of appropriate height, scale, and massing. The proposed site coverage on the 23,958 square foot lot is 2,090 square feet, where 3,115 square feet is allowed. The proposed site coverage ratio is 8.7%, where the maximum site coverage ratio allowed is 13%. The proposed addition is conforming as to height. The ridges of the proposed addition and the garage are lower than the main ridge of the dwelling. The proportions of the proposed addition are balanced in relation to the existing scale and form of the dwelling and other structures in the neighborhood. The proposed addition adds approximately 626 square feet to the existing structure. The addition is modest and does not add significant massing. The proposed garage, attached by a pergola-style breezeway, helps to make the structure appear smaller than a single mass of the same volume. Number six, the proposed project is compatible with the prevailing character of other uses and buildings on the site and in the neighborhood in terms of building materials and architectural techniques. Proposed materials to include cedar shingles, architectural single roofing, and double hung windows are compatible with the existing dwelling and with other homes in the neighborhood. Other single-family homes in the neighborhood consist of typical residential building styles on wooded lots. Several other properties in the area have garages, both attached and detached. The proposed garage is oriented with a short side toward the street and the garage doors facing the street. The use of a lower shed roof and dormer on the opposite side varies the facade and roof lines and is consistent with examples of historic building design throughout the town. Number 7, the proposed project does not impact steep slopes, floodplains, hilltops, dunes, scenic views, wetlands, or unique or significant environmental resources. The proposed project is sited away from wetlands and other environmental resources. No detrimental environmental impacts have been identified. The proposal does provide adequate management of traffic flow and minimizes unsafe and harmful impacts within the site as well as in relation to adjoining streets and properties. The property is located on a low-volume side street. The existing driveway will remain and provides adequate sight lines for vehicles entering and exiting the property. Number 9, after an evaluation of all the evidence presented and based on the findings of fact, the proposed alteration to the pre-existing non-conforming structure will not be more substantially detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing non-conforming structure. The existing structure is pre-existing non-conforming to setbacks as the deck on the southerly property line is 22 feet to the property line, where 25 feet is required. The proposed setback is shown on the site plan as 14.6 feet to the southerly property line, extending the existing non-conformity by 7.4 feet. Number 10. Abutters.
Zero.
0.
Zero abutters.
0 abutters. Let's see. Sorry. An interest appeared in favor and 0 appeared in opposition to the
Yeah.
proposal.
How do we record the
Didn't there?
letter?
It's in the next
It's,
letter.
it's in the next line.
1 letter was received in favor and 0 in opposition.
All right. May I have a,
Version I have.
a proposed vote to approve the findings of fact, please?
I move that we approve the facts.
All right, and a second for that
Second.
motion?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right. That's 5-0, thank you. And now let's go to the proposed conditions. Bob, would you read them, please?
Certainly. All right, correct me if I grew up along the way here. Number 1, no building permit shall be issued until the application complies with all pertinent sections of the Town of Eastham zoning bylaw. 2, the applicant shall obtain a building permit from the Eastham Building Department prior to the start of the construction. 3, the applicant shall verify bedroom count and septic design for adequacy with the approved plan with Eastham Health Department, and if necessary, shall obtain approval from the Board of Health prior to the issuance of a building permit. Number 4, all exterior lights shall be downshielded to reduce light spill and nuisances to adjacent properties. 5, the applicant is responsible for providing plans to the Eastham Building and Fire Department. Plans shall contain information on construction methods and materials sufficient to conduct a full code compliance review. 6, plan reviews conducted by town staff as part of the approval have been conducted for conformance with applicable sections of the zoning bylaw and adequacy of the site for public safety, access, and environmental impacts. An additional plan review for health and safety code compliance will be required and may result in changes to the approved plans. Any changes to the proposed site plan submitted with the application materials, except those that are de minimis, shall be reviewed by the zoning board. If the board finds a change to be substantial, renotice is necessary for a new hearing. Number 7, the applicant / owner shall maintain the perimeter vegetation in accordance with zoning bylaw section 7.2.6 perimeter vegetation. An area not less than 6 feet in width, measured from the perpendicular to the line around the perimeter of the lot, shall be maintained with trees, shrubs, and other plants in order to keep and/or create a naturalized buffer between properties. Portions of this area may be paved for pedestrian and vehicular access, but at no time shall pedestrian or and or vehicular access be located within 6 feet of the side property lines. Number 8, landscaping within the 6-foot perimeter may be undertaken at any point in the future by per zoning bylaw section 10.1.6 perimeter vegetation. Clear cutting of vegetation within 6 feet perimeter vegetation setback, where removal of vegetation is not subject to any other regulatory review, may be approved by the planning board or its designee without a public hearing, provided the abutters sharing a common line have been notified and proposed site work no less than 14 days prior to the date of approval, and no abutter has requested a public hearing. In making the determination, the planning board or its designee shall utilize applicable section of the zoning bylaw, section 10, site plan approval. Number 9, the applicant shall file the special permit decision letter with the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds and provide a copy to the building department after issuance of the building permit. Number 10, the board reserves the right to monitor the ongoing construction for compliance of the approved plan.
And there are no additional conditions. May I have a motion to approve the proposed conditions?
I would move that we approve the conditions.
Okay, Doug, and a second, please.
Second.
Justin, thank you. May I now have a motion to approve or deny the request for a special permit?
I think we need a vote on the condition.
Oh, I'm sorry, thank you. Yes.
Getting-
Yeah, all in favor for the conditions. I'm rushing
Thank
ahead.
you, Doug.
All right, and myself. Okay, 5-0 on the vote. And then may I have a motion to either approve or deny the request for the special permit?
I move that we approve the special permit.
Thank you. And a second, somebody?
Second.
Justin, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, and myself, 5-0 on that one. Okay, congratulations. Call the
Okay,
builder.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
Good night.
Good night. Okay, the next order of business is the minutes from the October 2nd meeting. I have a couple of corrections here on page 5. Down towards the bottom of the page. There were 2 number 13s.
Mhm.
So we should change the second 13 to a number 14. The motion by Ridge to approve the following conditions. No, we want the proposed conditions which are above, not following. So Ridge to approve the proposed conditions as stated. And then the motion by Kennington to uphold the planning board's decisions for case number 2025-06, subject to the additional conditions, and the additional condition is listed above as number 12. So if you just add the subject to the additional condition number 12 there. And then I need a motion to approve those minutes.
I move that we approve the minutes from October 2nd, 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Ridge, and may I have a second to approve the minutes?
I'd approve.
Okay.
Second motion.
Dick, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and we have no other business that I know of.
We, the one thing that we spoke about, in the office you and I did last month was to have a quick review of the, zoning task force.
Bringing us up to date.
Up to date on the zoning task force, and then I think we're all set.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I like that. No,
Thumbs up.
Good job.
Oh, yeah.
Good,
Okay.
Thank you.
good thing you weren't here. We were gonna get into you so much.
Okay, so you were gonna update us on the zoning task force.
Is it, it's going to be a preview of what the the
Joint.
meeting on the 28th is about?
Right. So
Okay.
we thought this was a good opportunity to give everybody just a quick 5 minutes.
Please.
His 6 or 7 things we're working on
Yeah.
and to sort of sell you to come to the meeting next month.
JRB review. Love a good acronym.
Oh, the joint.
The Joint Regulatory Board.
Right.
Review, okay.
I can go by memory, Paul, but you probably have a better memory of I do. We have about 7 items that are going to go forward to the Board of Selectmen that we're writing up. I shouldn't say we, that's a very royal we, not me. That the staff is writing up.
Task force. Okay,
So we will be talking about proposals to amend the inclusionary zoning bylaw. That is a bylaw that requires creation of affordable and workforce housing as part of a market rate development based on the number of units. So anything that if you're creating more than 4 units, there's a ratio of affordable units that you have to bake into that project. So we're looking to amend that bylaw. Basically, the main thing is to create sort of a carve out for smaller projects so that there's some flexibility for the boards to work with the owners and developers to make it workable. It's very rigid. The bylaw right now is very rigid, and the could be cost prohibitive with the requirements that a developer would have to do. So, and what we're seeing is that the smaller projects are not so much by, big time developers, but it's actually, it's business owners, just folks that are looking to revamp their properties, their business properties, add apartments for their staff and so forth. So we've had a few projects in the works that have highlighted that we need to have a little more flexibility in that bylaw. So there's some other mechanical changes and things throughout, but that's kind of the main piece of the inclusionary bylaw. We'll also be looking to revamp the sign code. This kind of came from me. Just in the last few years, we've had a proliferation of temporary commercial signs in the summer. And we don't really have a mechanism to regulate those, and we don't have any permit function for that. So it's just kind of created some gray area. So I wanted to address that. And you really, I'm sure we all see, the flag monopoles and some of the other things. We just want to make sure that our bylaw accounts for that. Again, it's just some technical changes, make sure we have definitions in place to cover kind of our sign code really hasn't been updated in over 10 years, and, new changes, new types of signs, new uses we're seeing. So that's the major thing. The other big one is some proposed changes to site plan review. This is going to be more to do with the planning board, but the planning board is really continuing to figure out how to use the bylaw changes that were enacted a few years ago, where we put site coverage limits on. So we basically limited the overall size that your house could be. I think overall it's been effective, but it gets difficult to administer that bylaw because the nature of review, and this board sees it too, it can get subjective. And so the issue we were seeing is that we set a hard limit. You can't build a house over X amount, and it's relevant to your lot size. But you have folks come in with a proposal, and they're under the max, but they're larger than the neighborhood. They're kind of the first neighborhood of small cottages. They're the first folks that want to, revamp. And so a key provision in that bylaw is to kind of preserve the nature of the character of the neighborhood and so forth. And so that's been a very difficult, and I sympathize with the board. It's difficult to kind of balance that. You're under the max, so why can't I build the max? I'm under, but you're trying to balance the neighborhood. So we've been kind of trying to deal with that piecemeal, but we decided that we should just take a look at the bylaw and revamp it. So what happened, we did meet with the planning board, got their feedback, and we actually went a little further. We were going to kind of tinker with some of the language, but we actually realized that we're kind of revamping the whole thing. And really what we're going towards is something called floor area ratio. So right now we deal with site coverage, but we're switching the terminology to floor area ratio. And it's actually more akin to what we do in reality. The way we do site coverage in Eastham really, we're looking at the massing and the scale of the project. Usually, when you're talking site coverage, it's just the footprint and how much space you're taking up. And we've always done it differently in East Town. We're trying to get at the scale, the massing, how it's going to impact the neighborhood and so forth. So we always kind of had a misnomer of what we call site coverage is not really the way we're doing it. So we're trying to define terms. So you'll see, it looks like a lot of changes, but what we think we're doing really is we're simplifying things, getting terminology more in line with what standard practices are. And we are proposing to further limit the overall size of the houses, the max. And that's based on, what we've seen from planning board cases and feedback from the planning board. So we're trying to refine the numbers a little bit to make sure that new development is more in scale with what we see for the community. But a big piece of that also is removing a threshold for review. So right now, pretty much every project triggers site plan review with the planning board. And we kind of realized that if we refine the overall maximum size of the house can be, it's really not necessary then to have planning board review on some of the smaller projects, because the idea is we're going to be comfortable with these new numbers so that no one's going to come in with an egregious house. And the smaller projects are really their expansions, like this one you saw tonight.
Sure.
Most 99.9% of them, they're designed to fit with the house. The scale, the massing, the materials. So it really takes away the need in my opinion, for planning board to review those things. Where you get, again, like tonight, where something is non-conforming, it might be a small project on a small lot. We'll review the ones that are not conforming to a setback. They'll come before this board, and that's why there'll still be an opportunity to have some degree of review on those. But we're trying to make sure we're looking at the projects that really warrant, there's a non-conformity.
Or scrutiny.
So it's kind of a balance where we're refining the sizes of the houses, but we're trying to reduce the level of regulatory hoops that one might have to jump through. So again, there's a lot of little changes. I won't go into all of them. We'll do that, but those are kind of the two big crux of that one. The other things that we're looking at are setback regulations for campers and trailers and recreational vehicles. This is kind of a chestnut that's been rattling around for a few years right now in the bylaw. You actually are not supposed to store a recreational vehicle, a camper, so forth, unless you get permission from the select board. This has come up, believe it or not, a few times. People have tried to play by the rules. They come before the select board. We don't have any regulations around it, so it's really just kind of like the board
May I please?
never knows what to do with it. So I've always just said, treat it like the zoning board would and just try to look at, is this going to cause a detrimental area to the neighborhood? So what we're trying to do is get it out. We're removing it from the purview of the select board and bring it to this board. And in order for this board to be able to work with it, put some setback conditions. So if you want to store your camper or your trailer, there's minimum setbacks, basically similar to a detached structure. You got to meet those setbacks. If you can't, for some reason, you have an extenuating circumstance, you can come to this board and get basically a special permit.
Are you also looking at storage of boats and boat trailers, or are you going to leave that one alone?
We are not addressing boats. This is
Okay, that will
business for
make everybody happy.
campers, RVs, trailers for equipment,
Yeah.
if it's going to be 6 feet or above.
Landscape.
So so it really, a landscaping trailer that doesn't have equipment sitting on it, it's whatever it is, 3
Yeah.
feet off the ground.
Okay,
We're not worried about that. We're worried about something that's over
Yeah.
6 feet.
This is camper storage, not people are parking and actually residing in that camper. That's a whole different.
It's the storage, yeah. So you can't
What if-
do that. You
That could
can't
be
reside in
a
the,
health thing,
in
something
the-
like that.
yeah.
I noticed.
And I think something that,
Dwelling on the opposite
just to touch on this one with the trailers, I think what Paul said about if it's less than 6 feet, we're looking at the visual impairment of trailers on your
Yeah.
neighbor's house. So if someone has an empty flatbed trailer or something like that, that's not going to register with us. So we want stuff that's either you've got,
Would be nice.
Parking a tour bus in your,
yeah.
in your front
Tour
yard.
bus.
It's just never gonna meet the character of the neighborhood.
We
It's a
have
big
a lot
place.
of, Floridians that.
All the
that-
neighbors,
that
but we're
do
the
that.
ones that-
Well, how about the situation, if somebody has a, you can see whole neighborhoods are like this, they have a golf cart, but then they have one of these canvas garages.
Oh, yeah.
Portable carport.
Which is the problem, the golf cart or the portable
Well, the
garage?
cart is less than 6 feet, the garage is not, the garage is just
Where they park it
10
is,
feet high.
Well,
Yeah.
that would be,
Shed issue.
I would say that would probably be a structure, considered a structure, which should meet the setbacks. But that's a
It'll
whole.
get ugly.
And then.
All right, well,
That might,
Uh,
we got
so-
more,
that's 4, you have one more.
two more.
okay.
So
Who's
I thought
counting?
you were going from memory. What's
the
those
campers
bullet
trail,
list
so
here?
it's moving
Exactly.
moving the decision criteria over to the zoning board, putting that into the setbacks, and we're also proposing some regulations on fences. Basically to require setbacks for fences on street facing property lines to avoid having 6-foot fences directly on a property line impacting visual character of the neighborhood and so forth. And also establishing sight lines for intersections, so we have safe sight lines. So it's revamping the whole kind of setback table. The section is right now all narrative. It's a little clunky to work through, so converting that into a table,
Yep.
putting everything in there, adding in the campers and the fences and so forth.
So there'll be a fence if it's, what did we decide, 4.5 feet or 4 feet or less, and you don't need a permit for it in the front?
Well, we're gonna go with 6 feet or less. You can put it on your property line, side and rear, you can put it on your property line just like now, but on your street face, if you want something on your front yard on your street, it would have to be a minimum 12 feet back.
Does that include things like not stockade, but the rail, the split rail fences?
Yes.
It does. Okay. Of course, split rail fences aren't that tall,
Yeah,
so
so,
we're, okay.
so some fencing,
And just a question about fencing and how it relates to the vegetation thing. If you have say a stockade fence down your property line, does that exempt you from having to keep the smush, the 6 foot of smush between you and your neighbor? I mean,
well, this.
it's all
well,
inside your cage, if you
Yeah.
will.
So this is kind of tricky. It has been tricky, but really the intent of that perimeter vegetation bylaw was to encourage, to discourage fencing and to have naturalized buffers.
Because it's hard to install the fence if you don't clear cut first. And if you're not allowed to clear cut first,
Right.
well, then it's hard to
Right.
install the
So,
fence.
and so that's why that language you read in those conditions,
Yeah, I read
know,
that.
there-
I kind of
there's-
missed.
you know, there is an ability, in my opinion, that if you wanted to put a fence in just because, you want the extra privacy or you got a dog or something, if you can do the clearing necessary within that 6-foot perimeter to put the fence in, but you should be maintaining some vegetation. You shouldn't be clear cutting to put the fence in. You should be maintaining a mixture of the fence, so planting back some appropriate things. So again, this is another one of these bylaws can get subjective. And it's kind of like a lot of it is just case by case, what are you doing? So I would say, if someone said, I want to clear cut this whole thing, that's not permitted. You got to come to the planning board and talk about, if you need to do clearing because I want to put the fence in, that's one thing. Do that, but you might have to put back some plantings so you have a mix. So not to get off on a tangent on that.
But we are seeing a proliferation across town of people putting in big panel fences.
Yeah.
All
No
4
doubt.
sides,
No
Yeah.
doubt.
all 4 sides. Sometimes it's an 8-foot high vinyl fence all the way around. And that has an impact on the neighborhood after, 5 or 6 people do it.
I don't disagree. All right, what else you got?
The other one is, my list here.
I got one for you. Storage containers.
Oh, the storage, yeah, so that's under prohibited uses, so we're proposing to add under prohibited uses, formula businesses, chain businesses, and drive-through facilities as prohibited in the other districts in town. Right now, they're already prohibited in the Northeast End Business District in the ECSD. So we wanted to add that in so there's consistency with the rest of the town. And the use of storage containers as for residential use. So the metal storage container pods, that kind of thing, which that has been popping up over town. We've received
Yeah.
several complaints over the years about, the visual impact of that. So what we're proposing is that the use of those for residential storage purposes would be prohibited. There are some exceptions if it's part of a construction project and you're using it to store equipment and things.
For the duration of the
For the
project.
duration of the project, there's also some
Maybe like cedar
capacity if you
shingles
have
on the
a,
side to, I'll stop.
you have a service trade, if you're a home occupation, a service trade, and you're storing your equipment, that's allowed, provided that you're screening it through some fencing or some landscaping or something. So there are some ways that, some exemptions, but, and the other thing is, proposal for the zoning enforcement regulations. So right now, the enforcement and the administration of the zoning bylaw is basically situated with the building commissioner. The building commissioner is doing an outstanding job doing this, but from my perspective, what this would do is put the tools in place in the regulations to allow, as needed, the town manager to appoint other staff to also be zoning enforcement officers so that we can address, basically the workload imbalance and make sure that we're being, have the staff capacity to do that. So
Would
it
this, would this involve hiring a person for that
No.
position?
No, I mean, we could, but it doesn't require that. So it basically it would allow the town manager to appoint other appropriate staff.
I see.
Either Paul or somebody on his staff, because right now only the building commissioner
Right,
can,
yeah,
can
I know.
investigate.
Yeah.
So there's a couple things. So there's the enforcement piece. You get complaints, my neighbor's doing this and that or whatever. There's the zoning determinations. Someone wants to do a project. They're looking for, where do I have to go? So we do zoning determinations to try to guide people, say you have to go to zoning, planning. There's that piece. And then there's also, within the bylaw right now, we have several sections that already allow the zoning board and the planning board to designate certain decisions to their designee. Again, I think that came up in one of the conditions you read.
It did.
And it's not named, it's assumed, it's assumed that it's me or Jackie, but it's not named in the bylaw. So it's a little bit of a gray area. So this bylaw would basically allow, as I said, town manager to appoint other appropriate staff to do zoning enforcement, and then it would also identify who these designees are and what their powers and duties would be. Again, that's already in the bylaw, but it's a little vague about who should be doing it. So,
Would there be, or has there been talk about fines for people who are not
Compliant.
compliant with
so
this?
there are,
with these?
that's already in the bylaw. It's
Okay.
already spelled out,
Okay,
but it's a capacity issue, in my opinion, is
would be
just,
to,
right now, one person is responsible for doing all of this
Yeah.
zoning. And on top of that person's day-to-day job, which is doing building inspections, reviewing permits, doing all kinds of other stuff.
Yeah.
And in order to do zoning enforcement, properly, I mean, it takes time.
sure.
There's an education piece. I mean, our policy in my department is really, we're looking for compliance over punishment.
Mhm, sure.
So, we like to notify, educate, send a
Right.
warning letter, send a
Right,
follow-up letter
right,
before we
right,
resort to fines and things. So just by that alone, it takes time, but then you gotta really,
Yeah.
you gotta take the steps. So it is time sensitive and time intensive. And again, I just want to reiterate, I look at it from it's a staffing, organizational capacity issue. It's not, has nothing to do with anybody's job performance or anything like that.
Right.
It's just, and it's really just to put in place the tools. If we don't need to appoint anyone, the person doing it is covering all the bases, no problem, then we don't do it. It's just if and when
Yeah, sure.
additional staff could be appointed.
Has there been any talk about, I'm thinking of two houses at least on Bridge Road where the owners,
Which ones could they be?
the
No, I
the
know.
hoarders,
Yes.
the hoarders.
Exactly which.
Is there been any talk with the task force about those kinds of situations? I know the town has been after the one at the corner there, Bridge and whatever.
Samoset.
Samoset, thank you, for years, and nothing ever seems to happen, and the mess, the collection of stuff, just,
The Crosby Village and Bridge Road corners, no,
yeah,
it's my other favorite.
yeah, just.
Those situations
proliferate.
really veer into whether or not we have regulations on like a blight.
Yeah.
We don't.
And we
That's
don't.
been talked about in the past. It's not on the radar right now with the task force, but
Okay,
not, that's beyond just zoning enforcement because it gets into other.
legal, I know it's
Yeah.
legal stuff.
But there's also a fair number of abandoned houses in town. I bumped into one today where there's a tree like this wide growing up just in front of the garage door. Nobody's been in the house forever.
Ah,
I mean, there ought to be a way that some of these things can move through some
I
process.
think welfare checks would be a place to start, right? I mean,
Well, that's
There's summer people who just never
that's a
came back.
blight. I mean, that really is addressed through a blight bylaw because it's not a zoning violation. You may have a dilapidated house, but if it's not a
But
zoning
it's not too
violation.
big or too close to the property line, so.
But what
I
is
mean,
the
if
right?
it becomes a public nuisance, like
Yeah,
a
that's-
hazard, then, you know, there's capacity that you could order it to be
Yeah.
fenced
Well,
off,
it-
made safe, all that kind of stuff, but it's not a zoning.
Right,
It
right.
gets into the Board of Health as well, if someone has a complaint about rodents and stuff like that.
If it became so dilapidated that a windstorm moved it within 25 feet of the property line, then maybe
it's-
we've got
then
something.
it's
So,
then it's our
um,
case.
The only, just, there's some miscellaneous definitions that we're looking just to clean up. So on the 28th, plan is to have a joint meeting, zoning board, planning board, task force, the select board has been invited, just like we've done in the past.
Yeah.
And we'll go through all these in more detail.
Okay, very good. Thank you for the summary.
Just one quick question, going all the way back to the size question, your item 3. At the end of the day, will they be able to build? Will we reduce the maximum size somebody can build on a property? And I think you're telling me on some properties, yes.
Where it just, there already is a max limit.
I know that.
Yeah, so we're adjusting that,
You're adjusting it down.
yes.
Okay,
Because oftentimes I get the questions, what could I build here? And it's one of those things I kind of need to know the answer. What can I build here? Today I can go to the table. You may not like the table, but the table's there.
Yeah.
And I think of the house that was built on the corner of Thumpertown and
Aaron,
Shirtlift, actually.
Oh.
That they built, the calculations said they could build 3,000, so they built 3,000.00. And people think it's a large house. On the other hand, that's what they were entitled to do, and they did. Question is, but they asked the question and they knew what they're buying.
So part of the rationale is, and this is based on, you know, what we've been seeing under the new bylaw and really what the analysis is the folks that have come to the planning board are coming in with houses that actually gonna fit within these new adjusted values. So
that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
but we'll be able to get into the details and the rationale at the workshop.
Yeah, and just as a quick part of it is, we're not gonna be looking at basements anymore,
Right.
so they're not calculated in the size. But, but we do but when you're looking at the massing of a house, the garage does impact the massing of the house, so the garage space would count towards that upper limit, but not the basement. And, like Paul said, it's still,
Yeah, but are we keeping smaller neighborhoods small? For reasons other than other than affordability? I mean, take the whole notion, that whole neighborhood, if you will. It starts on the corner of McCoy and Herring Brook, all right? Yeah. Fairwood Point. There's a whole neighborhood there where it's, a lot of little lots, but there's some bigger lots in the mix. We're gonna keep the houses on those bigger lots down because the neighbors are small. I think you're telling me yes.
Well,
There was a lot of discussion around that. Quite frankly, there was a lot of discussion around having the size of your development rights to be impacted by what your neighbors currently have. And at the end of the day, the discussion went this came up many weeks, and it came to really to tie your development rights strictly to your lot size.
Okay, we did that already. We already have
Well,
that.
but that's what we're modifying. So if we want to control the size of houses, we're going to use the tools that we have, and we're going to tweak those numbers down slightly.
We'll see.
Okay.
Good. I just need,
Okay.
I just need to be need to be able to answer the question when they ask it.
Yeah.
What could I potentially build here?
Right.
If I can go to a table and say, do the math.
You will be able to go to a table, and you just have to take note of the idea of when a basement counts and when a garage counts. Farmers porches are free.
It
You
is
get
the
to- you get
idea
to-
to really think about preserving the existing character of the neighborhood within the context of reasonability and not really giving much, even though we might want to, not giving much credence to the idea that this is gonna impact who gets to live
Right.
here now and in the future, right? That's kind of outside the purview, right? It really is just the nature of the neighborhood with what's reasonable. Is that?
well,
A fair
that's what we're trying to,
That
that,
balance.
that's the tricky part of doing site plan, because it gets subjective. And like I was saying before, you set a limit, now everybody's gonna come in, they have to be under the limit. But they may be larger than the rest of the neighborhood, and then that's been the subjective part of the planning board trying to balance. If we let somebody do a 3,000 square foot house, that's the limit, but it just blows out of proportion the rest, and then now, over time, that sets the new
Pattern.
Yeah.
pattern.
do two
So
or
like
three of this, and
everybody
suddenly
else-
this is
so
the
then-
character of the
Then over
neighborhood.
time, you have a smaller, modest neighborhood is now. And I would say it's just,
Well,
the whole crux of this is really tying into the strategic plan and everything, where a goal of the town, and people have different opinions about this, but a goal of the town in the plan was to preserve certain neighborhoods should stay, more smaller scale, modest, if you will, but you have to preserve people's rights that they want to expand and have more modern facilities. So that's why we're trying to adjust the numbers so that, yes, we're scaling the overall size down, but trying to get it so that there's sizes that are not gonna be totally out of whack with the neighborhood. And then the board doesn't have to wrestle with that. They're under the limit, but they're still too big, because whatever it is, even if they're at the absolute max, it's still a number that it's gonna be fine for the neighborhood. The neighborhood will survive. And then we focus on the massing and the scale. The size is fine. Kind of direct.
I'm sure someone said this, but the thing I always think though is when we're restricting the size of homes that can be built on some of these lots, we are restricting the tax base in the community, which means that the tax burden on those smaller houses to support the infrastructure that we have here goes up. The dollar per thousand of the tax rate necessarily has to go up to support the infrastructure if you're restricting the tax base. So there's a tension here of people concerned about taxes going up, but a policy of restricting essentially the tax base in this town. And I'm not sure where the line is, but it's happening every time we put a new bylaw in place that restricts what you can build on a lot. You're restricting the tax base, and the only source of revenue for the town really is real estate
That's
taxes.
a very good point.
So you're restricting the tax base in the town, which is artificially causing, I mean, I've seen my tax rates go up
My God. yes.
substantially over the 3 years that we've owned this house. And that's what's happening, right? The burden on the smaller houses goes up because there's not the larger houses to be able to make up some of the difference.
You offset that with the year-rounder tax break a little bit, perhaps?
What was it, 3%
Well,
off?
Not the one that
Yeah,
currently
the
are, but
RTE, whatever it is,
Right,
is
like
larger
a rounding
section,
error.
perhaps.
Right. So, but I don't know whether, when you guys at the planning board are having these conversations, but there's a bigger economic question for the town that has to be factored in when you're making these recommendations. So I've never seen it. I've never seen but people talk about what's the economic impact of some of the bylaws restrictions.
Sure.
Inflation of home size.
I would say, I agree with you that, Doug, there's been some discussions around those topics, and I think we're trying to find the happy middle zone here, where we're not scaring away, people that want to move to the town and retire here and build a nice house. But at the same time, we're not trying to encourage or see the houses that get built in Chatham at 11, 12, 13,000 square feet.
Right.
And that's happening.
I have a
So-
lot of respect for what you're doing. It's a
So-
very hard balance.
So when we look at something where the number was at 6,000 square feet, for example, and if you have a 6,000 square feet of living space above ground, you easily can have another 1,200 below ground. That's just modest, 20% extra. So between not looking at basements, I think coming down with the number a little bit, to where we're at is a happy medium. But yeah, you're right. If you had 10 acres and you wanted to build a 10,000 square foot house, East Ham's not the place for you.
Yep.
But at the most, we might be keeping one or two of those houses up, but we just don't have lots that would.
That's right.
They're all right on the highway.
I'd like to know.
Right.
Not change the nature of the character too much. If someone is like, why come in here to change it when you could just go somewhere where that's allowed?
Yeah.
Perhaps. I mean,
Right.
I know it's not that simple, but
Yeah.
maybe it is.
So that's a great question for the workshop. That's why I want to have the workshop, make sure people understand it, shake out any loose ends, things that need to be fine tuned. So the feedback is welcome.
Okay.
Thank you, Paul.
Anything else? Thanks, Paul, for the summary. We do have a case for 5th of February, is that right? Two now. Two.
What are they?
Boiler
Stay
alert.
tuned.
What number of meeting house? Bill.
420 meeting.
420
house
meeting
is
house.
the-
It's a familiar address.
I think I
when
wanted to
the-
buy that one time.
The planning board and
It was approved by a planning board. It was appealed. You already saw this case.
Yeah.
Oh,
Good.
maybe that's fine. Remember
And
that.
what's the other one?
But well, this is coming back because the appeal of the planning board, you heard the abutter is appealing the issuance of the building permit. So it's coming back to you. So
Okay.
it will,
Oh, okay.
Oh, good. Okay.
Oh.
What's,
the other one is, is it, Nauset Light Beach.
yeah, Nassau Light Beach Road.
And else falling in the ocean?
Not that one.
No, I think it's not right on the water. I think it's set back, set on the other side.
155 Nauset Light?
Or 125.
well, 125 is the one closest to the water. 135 is the next one. It's directly next to the light.
No, it's not those two.
It's 155 then.
Paul,
Oh,
is the
that's impressive,
appeal
Bella.
of the decision to grant the
135 is
building
clearly on the
permit
market.
within the scope of the ZBA?
Only to the extent that it's connected to some part of zoning. And so we'll try to spell that out in the staff report, and I've talked with the applicant to explain that depending on what her narrative is and what her
Yeah.
argument points are, it's only things, so the burden's gonna be on her to explain why issuing the building permit was an error because it's triggering a zoning piece. Anything having to do with building code is not within this board's purview.
Right.
So that'll be something we have to be careful to make sure that we're staying in the scope. So I've asked the applicant to tailor her narrative
And
for that.
will you make a judgment though before we even have a hearing? Because this came up with Collins Landing one time, right? Where they were trying to appeal a decision to this board and we all said, we appreciate what
Yeah.
your effort, but we don't have any authority to make a decision
Right.
here.
Kind of have to wait to see what,
How they phrase it.
yeah, I mean, I look at
that-
it like
is that a town council judgment?
she has the right to appeal it, but the burden's on her to make sure that she's making the correct argument. So I mean, we we will have to,
Right, because her appeal might be to the Superior Court, not here.
right, well, the other part of the appeal is actually to the building code.
If we're the zoning board of appeals, so we're hearing an appeal, okay?
Right, so obviously,
Another one.
yeah, we really shouldn't get into it.
Yeah,
Okay.
But
Right. Okay,
you will have to make your own judgments also, like,
Sure.
if
sure.
obviously she's gonna have an interpretation and
Okay,
this board's gonna have to.
Yeah. all right, thank you. The only other thing we need to do tonight is I need a motion to adjourn.
And we're having too much fun. We don't want to do
Oh, okay.
that. I'll make that motion.
Okay,
I would second that.
okay. Bob first and second was
Martin.
Martin. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
All right, and we are adjourned at 6:12.